When I opened my eyes, there was no pain, no sound, only silence, thick and muffled, as if the world had been wrapped in cotton. I was lying, it seemed, on a hard bench, cold with metal edges, the kind you'd find in midnight bus stations. The air smelled of dust, damp concrete, and something strangely familiar, a mix of gasoline, coffee, and worn-out bodies. I sat up. The space around me was vast, like a giant waiting hall. Gray concrete walls, arched ceilings, glowing neon boards listing departures. Only the destinations were wrong. Residual, 12:35. Silence, 14:05. Left luggage, 17:50. And my favorite, repeat, 00:00. There were no windows, no doors, just platforms, benches, and signs. People sat motionless, staring either at the floor or into nothing. No voices, no chatter, only the faint rustle of clothing when someone shifted or clutched a bag. I walked past several benches. On one of them sat a man in a gray coat. His face struck me as familiar. I froze. My heart stopped. It was Uncle Trevor. He'd been found dead in his garage 10 years ago. They said it was suicide, but now he was here, in this terminal beyond death, staring straight at me. His eyes were blank, yet I felt something deeper. Not fear, but a mix of unease and an old grief. He didn't move, just glanced up at the glowing board above him. Repeat, 00:00. My body trembled, though I felt no cold. The fear of death was gone because I realized I was already dead. I didn't remember how it happened. Last thing I recalled, driving home at night, rain on the windshield, exhaustion pulling at me. Then nothing. And now this station. I wandered until I reached the information desk. Behind the glass sat a woman in uniform, halfway between a train conductor and an office clerk. She didn't speak, only gestured me closer, as though she'd been waiting. On the counter lay a thin slip of paper with my name printed on it. Beneath, case, unfinished. She placed 2 tokens before me, one silver, the other black with a red rim. Then pointed at the board. A new message appeared. Return, conditional, or dissolution. I had no idea what either meant. Return sounded tempting, but with a condition and dissolution, there was something terrifyingly final in that word. I didn't ask questions. I took the black token. Out of despair, maybe, or curiosity. She pressed a button, and a door appeared where there had been none. I stepped into a narrow corridor, its walls the color of old bone. Fading lights flickered overhead, like in an abandoned subway. At the end was an office. Inside sat a man in a dark suit, his face shifting every time I blinked. He held a folder, told me to read. It was my life, laid out like a dossier. Actions, thoughts, even dreams, all pointing to one thing. Unfinished business. My sister. I had forgotten her. Completely. After our mother's death, I shut her out. She needed help. She reached out, but I decided it wasn't my problem. She started treatment, but without support. Last time I saw her, her eyes were hollow, standing at my doorway. I closed the door. The man pointed to the token, said I could return, but under one condition. I couldn't change the past. I could only live it again, and each return would cost me something: memory, voice, skin, sight, bit by bit, until nothing was left but dissolution. I agreed, and I woke up in a hospital. They called it a miracle, a car accident, 9 days in a coma. And now I was alive. But the world felt off, dimmer, like someone had turned the contrast down. I could move, speak, breathe. But something inside me had shifted. First thing I did was look for my sister. She was gone. No one had seen her. Her phone disconnected. The police refused to search. She was an adult, they said. Days passed. I started seeing her face in crowds, in mirrors, in television screens, once even on the departure board at a train station. The same eyes as that night at my door, desperately alone. That's when I knew she was at the terminal, the same place I'd been. She hadn't finished either, and I hadn't finished with her. But I couldn't go back. My token was spent. So I wrote her letters, left them in places we used to visit, libraries, an old park, the ruins of a cafe long gone. I knew she read them, because every night her shadow appeared in my window, not directly, just the outline, the silence, waiting. And then I began to unravel. First, my voice. I woke up one morning and couldn't speak. Doctors found nothing. Then my sense of smell, coffee, rain, even my own skin vanished. The world grew empty. I understood. I was paying the price, slowly, in pieces. One morning, I was back at the terminal. But this time, not as a passenger. I stood behind the glass, in uniform, part of the system now. No one told me why, but I knew. My token had never granted full return, only a pause, a limbo, access to the waiting room. I watched new souls arrive, some familiar, some strangers. They received their choice and made it, never realizing someone was always watching. I waited for her, and one day she came. She stood where I once stood, the same 2 tokens, the same silence. I prayed she would choose return, but she looked up at the board and chose dissolution, and vanished. I collapsed. For the first time, I felt cold, sharp like ice in my chest. I hadn't saved her, and now I was trapped here, forever. Time passed, but here time is meaningless. I still stand behind a glass, watching. Sometimes the newly arrived aren't dead yet. They're called the near ones. They vanish quickly before they understand. Only the truly dead remain. And then, one day, I saw a familiar face. My own face. I stared at myself as if in a mirror, but it wasn't a reflection. It was me, standing at the counter, holding 2 tokens. That's when I understood. I hadn't been dead the first time. She had. And she had come for me. She was my unfinished business. The terminal isn't for the dead. It's for those who can still be brought back if someone from the other side wants it enough. She chose dissolution to give me a chance. And I wasted it. Now I am here. And my double, my chance, myself, waits. waits for me to finally choose right, or decides it's too late.